G'day and welcome to David Joshua Forward Live. This is episode 77, and in today's show we're going to take a look at the speed editor and working with the speed editor in the edit page. You may be familiar with it more from the cut page, but on today we're going to look at using it in the edit page and doing things like string out, selects, and assembly. So I'll sort of go through my workflow here because it's a device that I have had since 2020, picked it up in the pandemic. I remember taking it to Hawaii while I was doing some remote work, lugging it through the airports and wanting to absolutely love it because it's a little bit of an old school device in a way with a sort of A/B sort of cutting and the jog wheel here and that kind of stuff. So it's a nice piece of hardware, but it has been a little bit frustrating in terms of limitations, both on the pages you can use it and being able to integrate it with just like altering the keys, because I don't use all that much. But as we go along, if you have any questions, let me know about photography, live streaming, video production, and anything to do with today's live stream as we look through a bit of like a sort of editing process. I'm going to take you through one of my projects that I did recently, and we'll just look at how my edit workflow in getting the footage and cutting it down and building an assembly, and then also how I use the speed editor from that. All right, so before we get through the sort of process of it, let's go to, I want to take a look at, go bring up my right page here. What am I on? This one here. Okay, so this is the speed editor, and that's my email. So let's get over to Resolve. So previously, what I would have is like, this is like a footage from, let me go back over to this page here. So it's like a real estate shoot that was done here in Brooklyn, in New York. And I would sort of bring in my footage and arrange that in the so folders here of shooting on a R5C with this one on, most of this on a gimbal. So this is a nice kind of lightweight camera to be doing that with, and then also some sort of drone footage here of sort of the external of that. So with the speed editor, and it's probably changed a little bit more recently, but it used to be that under Shift 3, under the edit page, this is how you would, between source and timeline, so timeline here and then source up here, you'll see that it sort of puts it all into one long string out, and then you can sort of go through and select your ins and outs and sort of lay that down like so. I think let me just check. I always have to go back to the cut page because I'm never quite sure. Timeline 16. Okay, so we've just created a new timeline. Let me find that in the media pool. I'm going to pull this into my tutorial, and we're going to call this one cut page, just because this is the demo that we're working on. And this is, weirdly, this is the problem that I was having with the cut page. I don't know if it's just like a bug, and I'm using the beta, 19 beta 3, I think. But I would find that every time I save this, it would lose the reference to the proxy and also to the footage. So the way I've set up my project here is I'll bring in the media, and then under, I'll go jump back over here to my footage here. So I will usually, if this is like, Canon footage, let me just see here. I'll select all of them, and then I'll change the input color space to Canon Cinema Gamma is how it's shot, and then the input gamma to Canon Log 3 is how this particular footage was shot. And then from there, select all the clips, and you can generate proxy media. And that just means that I can keep some, on my laptop, I can sort of go wherever and I can edit, and then when I need to, I'll just plug in my solid state hard drive to do a render out. So that's kind of the way that I work here. So we should be able to see all of the media. I mean, you can see here that it's still connected. And in the cut page, I was increasingly having this problem. So I'd be spending a lot of time going through making selects, and let me just, where are we? Go back to source. So I'd find like my next clip and go in and out and add that one in. But then when I was like either saving the clip or going to disable all proxies, which, so at the moment I don't have the main media link, I've just got the proxies. And when I go prefer proxies, for some reason this footage was not coming back online. And this happened a while ago when I was working on a project and I'd done a whole thing of selects and then I couldn't get it back. And I had to find a new way of working with this. So that's what we're gonna go through today. So let's jump back over to here and I'm gonna talk about the first part of this process, which is what I would call a string out. And a string out is basically getting all of your footage and stringing out in a timeline. There's some benefits for this. You can export a lower quality copy of that to a client if they just want to sort of show them all of the footage that you shot. But in this instance, we're going to redo what we had with the cut page, but in the edit page. All right, so let's jump back over to my edit page here. And under here, I'm just going to go back to my find in media pool. So that was my cut page one. Let's make a new one called string out. And what I'm going to do is get all my footage. And you can see I've got like an in and an out here from this clip that we had set. I'll load this one up here. I want to make sure that these in and out points have been cleared. Otherwise, I'm going to not bring in all the footage. So I'm just going to select all and right click and go, actually, sorry, not right click, just go option X is going to clear the ins and outs. And then I can grab that and just bring that in like that. So we've got all these clips and then we're going to go and grab the Mavic footage and I think that's already been cleared and I'll put that on the end of that. All right, so now we have a timeline which is basically just everything that was shot on that shoot strung out just chronologically, like the way that it was shot. There's no order to it, don't have to think about it too much. And what can be neat about this, at this point you could jump over to the export page and you could export a low quality one if you just want your client to be able to see a proxy of what's going on with all of the stuff that you've shot. But we're going to use this to do similar to what we had to the cut page is to make selects from that. So the way that I work through this is I've got a string outs and then the next phase is a selects and then it is an assembly and then from there you're getting onto the first cut. And so I work like that mainly because in the early stages of an edit you don't want to have to think too much about how you're putting the story together. You're doing the sort of like logging aspects of a project, which is something that an assistant editor might do. And or if you're doing it yourself, then it's very important to get everything organized and minimized and sort of you've got all this footage and you just want to find the best selects and then sort of condense that down onto another timeline. And then from there, we're going to condense it down to an assembly, which is like things arranged in terms of the flow of an edit. And then from there, you'd be getting on to your first cut and so on. And I'll just sort of take us up to the sort of first cut on today's tutorial. All right, so what I'm doing now is I've got my string out here and I'm just going to lock the track just so that nothing moves. So now this is my reference material here. I'm gonna come back to my bin and we're gonna start a new one called selects. This is probably one of the main, I think it's one of the most important aspects of an edit is just kind of narrowing down what you're going to work with. So the little trick that I had, oh sorry, I didn't actually, didn't show you what I got going on here. This is what I got going on here. I created a new, where are we, under selects. I just made a new timeline here called selects. Now, remember on the cut page, when we jumped into the source tape, it was creating this sort of big sequence using all the clips that we had in the selected bin. Well, on the edit page, we're going to do something similar. And instead of bringing in individual clips onto a timeline, I'm going to go back to my string out, and I'm going to drag my string out into my viewer like this. And so now the string out is basically See here, and then we've got the footage of the Mavic at the end. So this is like everything that we shot on there, ready to be laid down. So it's the same sort of process with a few caveats, which is, let me just hit my next, that was a string out, sorry. I'm getting my chapters out of order. So after the string outs is the selects, where we're gonna take the best takes only. We wanna sort of condense that down. And so we've created a selects timeline, and we're dragging the string out timeline into the viewer. And from there, we can just see all of the clips. And this is what I mean about it being a bit more sort of old school A/B, because we're actually using a wheel to go through the footage and select them. So for example, this shot has a bit of a run up to the property. So we're gonna go in and out, and then we dump this in. And I'm just gonna make this one a bit bigger, because and you can see clips are actually landing in the timeline here. And just go back up here, go back to my source, and we might jump through, and you just want to get the best takes of whatever it is. So in here, out there, and we can just keep on jumping through. So maybe we want like a bit of ivy detail, like that, jump that in. You can jump over to the scroll, where we can just sort of jump faster through this. So maybe I'll get this detail here, and then go back to jog, in, out, and smart insert. I'm skipping over a couple of clips here, but normally what I would just do is sort of go through each shot and work out, like, you know, is it a good shot? Do I want it in there at all? You know, here's the sort of side entrance, insert like that, and skipping through here. Got a bit of some park footage, just have coming into the park, insert like that. And let's get something else. Maybe, so I did another take here. So I just want a bit of, you can hit space like that, insert, and I think I had some flowers somewhere. We'll just get a bit of flowers. Insert that, and then I'm just gonna, just for time's sake, we're just gonna jump into, imagine we come towards the end of this, and we've got a bit of a drone shot. So we want, let me see what's something good about there maybe. All right, so we've got this kind of approach, and we can insert that. All right, so at this point, we're really not, I'm not thinking about the order of things, and I'm not trying to arrange things. I'm just thinking about, is this a good take or bad take? And so it kind of takes some of the brain pressure off of thinking, like, if you've got, you know, 100 clips that are going to end up in an edit, is this one good, and is it going to go over here, and all that kind of, trying to keep that sort of mental tracking of things. At this point, I'm just going, is it good or is it not? And it goes into the selects timeline. Now, there's a couple of important things that you need to do here. What you'll notice is in here, it's actually not put in the clips, it's put in a reference to a timeline of the clips. So here, so this little linked item here, if I right click this and go open in timeline, you'll see it's actually opened my string out timeline. And this is why I locked it, just so I don't move anything around. And if I go Shift I, you'll see that this was the actual selection part. So at the moment in my timeline, I don't actually have a clip in there. I've got a sequence which is referencing the clip. But what I want to do is to select all these, right click, and go decompose in place using clips only. And then you'll see it's gotten rid of that sort of intermediate step. And now if I was to hit F to match frame, or Option F to find it in the original media, you can see that now I'm actually referencing the clip all the way back in the original bin, which is great, because if I did that thing that I did before with the cut page where I disable all proxies and then put it back on, I now have all of my clips there. One note at this point is, I'm just going to undo that. So here where I'm still referencing the clips, make sure you don't do any speed changes or that sort of thing until you decompose it. Otherwise, you won't be able to decompose it. So for example, if this house, for example, if I was like, oh, actually, I want to do a reverse sort of reveal, and I hit R and I reverse the speed, change like that, then when I right click on it, I'm unable to decompose it. So I'd have to go back and what I've got, Command R, select this little thing here, and you just go reset clip. And then you'll see that you would be able to come up here and decompose in place using clips only. And now we have that clip, although I think I reversed it, so that's probably not working. Could have been weird. Yeah, I had it reversed. So just make sure you do that decompose first of all. Same thing with with the cut page, it should have been able to be doing that because remember it's also linked. But after changing the proxies or saving or quitting or something, for some reason it hasn't linked out. There could just be some weird little quirk that maybe I have set up some setting in here that is doing that, but yeah, that's what I've got. Now, the great thing about having a selects thing like this is you have the cream of your footage in a consolidated place. And so when a client says, hey, do you have any more clips of like flowers or something? I'll be like, yeah, I know, like, I don't have to scroll through a ton of footage to find it. I've got a very sort of concentrated amount of footage. The other sort of thing that I do with my clients is sometimes I'll offer them as part of a package that we can include the selects in what they are getting. So they'll get the actual edit, but they'll also get a folder of the selects. And the advantage of that is that often you do a shoot and you've got tons of great B-roll, but for the client, if you just give them the raw footage, they probably don't in-house have someone who's going to sit there and go through, a terabyte of footage from a particular shoot day. So this is a really great archiving process of just having the best clips accessible for the future. And in that instance, rather than, remember with the string out, I said we could go to the deliver page and we would export them sort of a dailies of a lower quality one. Then I'm just checking my comments here. You guys are chatting amongst yourselves. All right, just making sure we all sound, when you said sounds good, then the audio is still good. So this will be exporting a, like one, 1080 or 720 file for your client to look through all the footage. You could do the same thing with the selects, but also from an archiving point of view, or if they want to sort of take this and sort of repurpose this social or like do recuts or whatever, this is where you could jump over to the deliver page, and rather than exporting it as a single clip, if you just click individual clips and under file, you can add like unique file names as the suffix or that kind of stuff. And you could export it in your 4K footage or whatever. And then they have a really nice little, it could be like 10 gig of H.265 4K footage that they can use for future, a couple of years time. They're like, we need clips of this, as opposed to sending them a ton of raw footage that no one's ever going to want to look at again. And even if they come back to you, it's good to have that footage archived because, your time is valuable to be able to, you don't want to dive into an old project and have to sort of recut things. All right, so let us jump on to our third section here, which is talking about the assembly. So we've done a string out, which is where we've got all the footage just laid out in a timeline. We've taken that and we've put it into the viewer, and then we're cutting from that into a selects timeline, like a new timeline, and then we've decomposed that so that all those original clips are now sitting in this selects timeline. And now we want to start doing an assembly. And the difference here is selects is kind of like you're not thinking about the edit, you're just kind of laying up the clips and just cutting out the chaff. And when we get to the assembly, we're starting to think about chronologically where these things go. So again, it's the same process. So remember, we have, we've selected this and we decomposed in place. So we've got all these clips. I'm just going to lock it again. So I'm sort of making a timeline, which is kind of like a bin of subclips. And I'm going to go back to my tutorial and we're going to start a new timeline called assembly. And now we're going to grab our selects. And I'm going to drag this into the viewer window again. And so now, as I scrub through here, I don't have to look through a ton of footage. I can just grab the clips that I want. And so now, what I like about this is like I find when in like previous years I might have just had selects here, and I'm sort of rearranging clips on the timeline, and that can get I don't know, it takes a bit more brain power, and I think it's a bit slower. Whereas I've found when I do an assembly, now I can sort of come with a fresh fresh page, palette, whatever, and I can decide the sequence of how I want to tell this story. And it's still rough. Like, I'm not trying to sort of get everything timed out correctly. It's more just getting the sequencing. So here I've got this, shot of the building, but maybe we want to start with something like here. And so you'll see again, I'll just go in, play through. And it's also a little bit more of the pacing here. So I can go like 1, 2, and go, okay, about this long. It feels good for a shot. Dump that in. And then from there, we probably want to go, what have we got? This one, I like this one, and I'll eventually end up reversing, where are we? I was doing this backwards. There we go, to something like that. No, this was the shot, actually. So it was like there to here, but I'll reverse that later. So I'll insert that, and then we've got a bit of ivy, because it's Brooklyn and it's a very expensive house. And then a bit of the door frame. Okay, so we've got our sequence here, and I've inserted that. And so now on my timeline, when I play that, we can have our, like this. Cool. All right, and so that allows you to just very quickly go through, scrub forwards and backwards through your selects footage. You're not having to worry about, shots where, like, I try to shoot pretty conservatively, but on a gimbal particularly, there's still parts where you're sort of getting stabilized in position, then you're sort of moving into a shot. So cutting out all of that stuff then means that you can just sort of focus on the actual shots. And then now that I've got this, again, we need to do that step where we select all the clips, come up here, decompose in place using clips only. And so now I have the original clips, which will, if I select it, will link back to my original files. And you can see if I turn off my proxies, because I don't have the actual media connected, and then go prefer proxies, then all the clips are still there and everything's good. And we can just sort of watch our edit through here, a little bit of Ivy, a bit of the door, and so you're sort of thinking about like what's the voiceover and music going to be happening in here. And then at this stage, this is where I might come in here and hit R to reverse that. And then you can see we're sort of coming down from the trees, or probably need to slip that a bit more, a bit more tree like that. So that's when you've done the assembly, and that's when you would start moving into the first cut. But that's kind of just where I wanted to take you up to today, because I thought that was sort of maybe a different way of using the speed editor in the edit page, but using those sort of embedded timelines to do that, rather than the cut page, which does sort of a similar sort of thing. So let's take a look at. I can get my iPad here. We'll say g'day to some people. Who have we got here? We have Let Your Nerd Be Heard from Arizona. Great to have you here. And Nico, always great to have you here. And Eric, excellent, from Rochester. Thanks for joining, as always. Laurent from Brussels. And I see you guys had a little chat in here. Okay. Eric says logging footage is still necessary even these days, which is so true. It's like it's an essential part of setting up your edit project. It's a bit of it can be tedious, so because you kind of just want to just jump in and get it done. But if you spend the time up front to organize your footage, to log it, and then to go through that process that I just showed there of making the selects that you can then refer back to, because when you get into first and second cut with a client and they want alternate shots, then you're not going back into your original footage, you're going back into your selects folder and you're sort of finding an alternate take or just something to replace it. And it's just much faster and easier. I am interested about, I feel like someday AI has got to come into this a bit more. Like maybe at some point it will be able to analyze the footage and actually select the best bits. I don't think it would do that very well. But what I would love to see for interview type pieces is for it to make a transcription, like a text transcription of an interview, and then be able to feed that into ChatGPT and say, give me a 1-minute edit of this 40-minute interview. I have tried that with text with ChatGPT, and invariably it just like makes up text, and I have to be very specific about like you can only use like existing sound bites, but then again, maybe one day we'll just be at the point where we'll do an interview with someone and then the video and the audio and everything will just be, summarized, and we'll have some AI avatar that does it all. So, yeah. Eric says, it's funny you mentioned the divide between the cut versus the edit page. Aaron, let's get rid of this pen. Aaron had the same complaint about the speed editor that way, and Alex is the only person I know who uses the cut page. As I said, I love-hate relationship with it. I love the wheel. Let's take a look at what I like about it and what actually, not that one. Let's go this one. I'm just going to clear that. I like the wheel. I like the jog and the scroll, mainly the jog. The shuttle, I feel like it just goes way too fast or something. The scroll is not too bad, but it can be a bit too fast. The source and timeline, they're very handy from jumping back between your source and the timeline, moving back and forth, particularly with that layout that I showed of like having all of your selects in the viewer window and then bring that into the timeline. I use the in and the out. I think you can go, I'm just trying to remember if is it both of them? Yeah, if you hit both of them, it clears it. There's things like that are kind of nice. And I use like an insert button and play, and that's about it. I haven't looked at this more recently. I think they did some updates which have a little bit more multicam functionality in here, but from when I bought it, it never had really out of the box multicam editing. Like it'd be really interesting to be able to have a multicam editor. I don't know off the top of my head if it's going to work for replay or if you need to buy the next one up. But let's take a look at where is it? This one. I've got links down below. Let me go to. Here we go. So the speed editor. The best price I found was B&H at the moment. I don't know why it cannot be returned. I don't know what that is, because normally it's pretty good return policy. And I wouldn't think this was a crazy kind of thing that gets ordered from a third party. But normally it's been $3.99. This one's $3.69. And what's nice is it comes with the studio software, which is $300 on its own. So you could think of this, if you did need the studio software, this is kind of like a $70 keyboard, which is probably worth it for, if you're doing a lot of edit logging and that kind of stuff, then it's probably worth getting for that. But I do find for my general editing, I actually don't use that. I'm kind of much faster on just the keyboard. $369 there. I think, what was the other one? Oh, so on the website here, they've got 3 models. So if you're feeling lucky, you can go get the big one, which is like $1,000 or something. And then Resolve Replay Editor is the new one that's come out, and that is more focused on replays using an ATEM into Resolve so that you can select things and do it that way. I guess you could edit with it as well. And I kind of hope, I feel like with the Resolve Speed Editor, if you could customize it just a little bit, then hopefully you'd be able to use it for replay. But there you go. That's a nice big up close picture of what it looks like to slip and slide things here. Transport control. The wheel it feels good. Like, where are we over here? It sort of spins, but it is fine spinning. Like, there's not much resistance there, but that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. What else we got on this thing? Yeah, that's about it. All right. What else we got? Let Your Node Be Heard says, actually stopped using the speed editor and now just use the Stream Deck to do the same functions. I only use the speed editor on the cut page too. That's a good point, because I remember when I was first trying to get into the keyboard, or the, the speed editor, there were so many buttons that were sort of missing on there that I wanted. I can't remember what they were exactly now, because I've just sort of gone back to the keyboard. Because the nice thing about a keyboard is that a laptop goes anywhere with you, and you don't have to plug anything in. So if you're kind of fast on a keyboard, then you can do it anywhere. You can sort of work on an airplane and that kind of stuff. But there was a period of time where I had the editor, and then I had a Stream Deck next to it with functions here for Resolve to be able to bring in more like keyboard shortcuts. So that's probably one of my main gripes with it, is that you can't actually customize it. So in DaVinci Resolve, you can customize your. Let me just get in there again. Where are we going? Not that one. In here. Okay. You can. I think it's Option Command K. Yeah. Or under the file. Oh, I can't remember what it is. Just got this keyboard shortcut. Anyway, Option Command K is to customize the keyboard, and you can make a whole lot of keyboard shortcuts, and then using something like a Stream Deck, you could get those buttons to target the shortcuts, and so that's really good. It was things like I would use it to like clear properties and stuff like that, which is kind of nice being able to do that rather than having to sort of right click and open up things. But yeah, there's nowhere in here, I don't think there is, under control panels, speed editor, like that's kind of what it is. It's like shows you the battery level on it, doesn't really sort of show you anything else. So I kind of feel like there would be an aftermarket for some keycaps that you could switch them out, or something that could be, that maybe Blackmagic could make an aftermarket keycaps for the replay that could have a new profile, and you just replace you get a bag of keys and you stick them on there, and then you got a speed editor mini. Could be kind of nice and sort of a way to make use of this hardware, because I don't want to have another thing on the desk. So all right, that's what I think about that. What else we got in here? Eric says the shuttle and jog knob is definitely old school. It certainly is. When I was coming up through university, we had a little bit of A/B sort of tape editors. So I think my first year of university, I got to play with that, but it was really, they were the kind of Final Cut days. And so I feel like our professors were trying to like teach us the legacy of like, this is the way it has always been done. But of course, you leave the TV studio and you go back to your dorm and you're just working on your Mac. And so the thing that you get familiar with is using a computer, a laptop, or iMac, or actually I think I had a Mac Tower back then. And so that's, the NLE is just a faster and better way to work. I actually remember there was one time we had to do an A/B tape. What are they called? EDL, edit decision list, and I think it would save it to a floppy drive. This is back in the floppy drive days, and I did the edit on Final Cut Pro, and then I exported. I saved it to a floppy drive, which I think I actually had back then, or I had like an external USB sort of plug-in, and then I got that floppy drive and I put it into the tape machine, and then it did the A/B, like you could set it to run, and then I did my assignment in the A/B tape machine, and I was like, and I was good at it because you with A/B tape machines is basically you're doing, I guess it's kind of similar to what we were doing here, right? So here we have our source material, which is, hang on, let me just go back to, remember we had our selects in here. So A/B is basically like you've got one tape with footage on it, and then you've got another tape where you're laying, you're sort of copying footage across, but it really has to be kind of chronological, because once you've laid something down, you can't just like delete a section. You have to sort of go back and relay it. And so that's where things like audio sync becomes very important, because you can't just like slide things together. So you'd have to like fill in clips and stuff like that. So here with our, remember our select, so it's kind of like your A roll, and then we would be sort of jumping between them. So we select our clip, and we go mark it in and out, and then you would insert it, and then you'd go back and you would find like your next shot. I want to do this shot here, and then you would insert it. And so if you imagine this timeline, what you're seeing here is a graphical representation of a second actual tape where it's sort of recorded the next part of it. And so you really, like, you couldn't just like grab a clip and rearrange it. So that was the thing back in the day of how to get around the assignments. Eric says, like with so many things, BMD Stream Deck fills so many gaps. I couldn't agree more. Funnily enough, I will say I do really love Resolve. Like, as I was saying, I had I started editing in 2001 or maybe 2000 or something. So we're talking 24 years ago, and that was in Final Cut up until when Apple just like dropped the ball in 2013, I think it was, or something like that. Like Final Cut 7 just died, and I went to Premiere for a number of years, but I never really liked it, and I was having to do sorry, I've got an automated camera here, which is my camera is doing gestures. We'll come to that next week. What was I saying? So Final Cut, Premiere. All right. And then, so with Premiere, it was still sort of round tripping through Resolve for the color aspect of it. And so when Resolve really picked up its game with the editor, and it was like, oh, we've got an edit page now. So then it was like transferring across to Resolve. And as a piece of software, I think it's really pretty, and I love how it's arranged, and I don't mind the fact that like these panels are all sort of built in. Like, Adobe, you can kind of like arrange it however you want, but you sort of get used to these different panels and different ways of laying it out, and then the whole kind of different stages of the edit across there, that all sort of made sense. What I don't love is ATEM software control. I think this is just like a huge missed opportunity. We can click on, what can we click on? Click on things here to cut, but it's a backup if everything else fails. So I think what would be great is an overhaul of the ATEM software control. Things like in the palettes, in the super source. They've got like 4 presets here, which, like, it's not going to get you very far. You have to customize it elsewhere. So I think this could be a whole graphical reimagining of it, and you can, arrange things very easily, and you can do automated transitions and stuff like that. I just think there's so much room in there. yeah, plenty to work with. So, Sheriff says, how, let me get back to my shot here so we're not getting everything in there. How fast is it when editing ISO multicam? It's not, I would probably, depends on the machine that you've got. I've got an M1 Max, so that's getting on to, what's that, 4 years now? 4 years? Something like that. And I feel like I could have, I don't have any problems with the ATEM files, so you can get an extreme with 9 files, and often I've done projects where I'll add 4K footage into that. So for example, maybe I've got the ATEM and it's got 9 HD files, and I have this like main camera that I've recorded in 4K elsewhere. I can actually bring that 4K footage into the timeline and sort of sync it in the timeline, replace, camera 1 HD material with 4K footage. So I'll have a mix of HD and 4K, and I'll like 9 different streams or maybe even more. And that has been fine. I haven't had a problem with that. Editing under, where is that? Is that in here? No, it's under the, let's try to find, I've got too many windows open here. Under this one, I'll come back over here so you can see what I'm doing. This is where you'd go multicam, and that's not very, I don't have any multicam stuff up there. So, what was I going to say? If depending on your system, or even not depending on your system, I think just from a file storage point of view, it's really great to do proxies. Like I still always do proxies, and it's normally using, I'm trying to remember if I've got so many different, the one thing I don't like about Resolve is just there's so many different menus, and I'm trying to remember where the proxies is under, maybe it's under project, which is Shift 9. Is that it? No, wait, general options. Oh my God, master settings. Okay, here you can set your proxies, and so if you're working with 4K material, for example, you can set it to half or quarter or that kind of stuff resolution. And then the one that I use is Proxy ProRes 422 because it's super lightweight. There's a bit of compression on it, but did I get Proxy? Yeah, Proxy. But it's every frame is its own frame. It's not doing any interframe compression, so it's very easy for systems to play that back. And if you've got things like multicam, then using something like ProRes is going to be easier for your system to process. So that's the proxy footage that I use. And then, like I was showing you at the beginning, under the footage, I would select it all, and then I would just go generate proxy media, and that's going to generate it based on your the settings that I just showed you in that window, the project window. And then once you've got that, you can up here either disable proxies or use a mix of prefer camera originals. So I turn on camera originals here, and you can see that we can still see the pictures because it's referencing the proxy material, even though I don't have it actually connected. Whereas if I go disable all proxies, so it's saying don't reference the proxies, only reference the online original material, then you can see that it's just going to show that it doesn't have access to that because I haven't plugged that in, which is somewhere in my, here we go. So this is like a bag up here. Where are we? SanDisk G40 or something. It's like a Thunderbolt 3 drive, 4 terabytes. That's what I've been using. I did have one kind of corrupt or something. I don't know. A little bit nervous about that. But this is just like a drive that is fast, and it's not like a storage drive or a backup drive. But that drive, if I plug that in to the system, then all of that reconnects, and you can export the sort of high resolution one. I will say on this point, there is something that I would love to see Blackmagic do, which I'm calling like remote render, I think. So if we go to the projects here, you can go to the cloud, and I haven't logged in a while. But I'm trying to, sorry, I haven't actually shown you what I'm doing here. Let me go back to here. Okay, let me just back up a second. I'll show you. So I was going, yeah, Shift 1 to bring up the projects, and then bring up the cloud. So this is where you could create a cloud project that you could collaborate with someone across the internet. I mean, there's also the network here. So you could do that on your local network if you had like a production house here in there, or just locally, this is the one that's on the drive there. And what I would love, where am I? Let me just grab my, is this it? No, come back to on camera. What I would love is sort of a remote render function. So currently you can have, just say you do a shoot, like I do a shoot in New York, I generate a terabyte of footage from a shoot. I can come back to the studio and archive it and generate proxies. Maybe that's like 10 gig. And then that 10 gig of proxies is downloaded by a remote editor somewhere who then edits. And we're in sync, so we have the, we can make changes to the project. But the problem is this end with the original footage still needs to be connected to the original footage unless you're going to ship like a terabyte of footage for a project. So what I would love is if this original computer, it's online, it's connected to the online material, the 1 terabyte of footage. The remote editor should be able to send the render task to their collaborator, who can, their machine will spit out the file. So, it'll jump over to the render page here and here. And all of these, I don't know where you would put this in here. You would just, under down here is normally there's a collaboration sort of spot if I was under the cloud aspect of it. So you like send the render to that person, they've got all the footage online, and then it's just back in the Blackmagic cloud storage or on Dropbox, and then that remote editor can grab that file, just say you made a 500 megabyte file in 4K, H.265, you send that to the client, and they can just like manage the project rather than it always having to come back through the studio. That's what I would like to see Blackmagic do. Sharif says, can you show a quick ISO multicam editing with the editor? With the editor, I haven't actually done, but we can give it a go. Let me see if I can. Give me 1 second. I'll just see if I can figure out some extreme. Okay. How about I'm just gonna I'll show you what I'm doing here. I'm gonna close this project, and I'm just gonna make a new project so we don't mess anything up. On the fly here, we'll see how we go. So if I jump over to my Finder, I have a CloudPod with no drives connected, and then I've got the Extreme and the Pro, and this is the latest update that we have, 9.5, and there's a 9.5.1 that's out, which fixed some bugs, I think. But this has basically enabled network storage to be accessed more readily across to the SSD drive where the ATEM is storing all the footage. So, for example, at the moment, I am recording everything. Let me see if I can show you what I'm recording under, whatever I got, under the, not the auxiliary, under here, input, is that right, 12? Yeah, okay. All right, so this is the return feed. So I have an ATEM constellation which is doing all of the switching, and then I have 8 of those outputs are going into an ATEM Extreme SDI, and that's sort of like an 8-track recorder. And then that multi-view is also feeding back into the constellation just so I can see what I'm doing. But so you can see here I'm recording the program that we've been doing so far, and we've got all these camera angles here. So the bottom half is basically the program is in box 9, and then I'm recording camera 1, camera 2, and then I've got setting up some tail layers on 1 and 2 for like front and back, and then third camera which is not connected, the screen for the Mac, and then a super source. So they're the 8 sources that are being recorded. And if I come back to my Mac, boom, okay, we made it. We made it back across. This is where it's coming in. I think it is. ATEM test. Conditional buttons. I hope it is. Maybe it's test 2. What are we doing here? I thought I would have updated the file name, but maybe something's off. Okay, this is it. So this is what you're looking at here is the live recording that's coming in here. It hasn't been named properly. It should have the program name on it, but I think I was doing something which is called it a test 2. But this is the growing file you can see from the beginning of the show. And these are our ISO files. Video ISO. All right, so I think what I hopefully we don't crash the show here. Let me just see if because I do have a lot of things running on my computer now. Let's go back to Mac. No. Let's go back to SuperSource. There we go. You can see me. So what I'm going to do is just grab all these files from across the network and dump them in. Change project frame rate. Sure. Why not? Okay. And so now we're basically looking at a demo of the, what do you call it? Yeah, there we go. We'll see. Hopefully this is all working properly. So on shuttle, is that right? Shuttle? Or maybe scroll. I'm trying to go faster. There we go. So you can see it's not like, it's not buttery smooth. I'm just sort of scrubbing through all my footage. So, and then maybe if I go jog, is that, yeah, I wouldn't say it's like buttery smooth. And I can just skip ahead, and then this is, I think this should be like the growing file that's coming in. Ugh. No, it's got the end of it. I haven't really played around with this, so I'm not quite sure. Oh, is it this one? I try to remember the multicam. I haven't used this window much. But the idea should be, I'm gonna have to come back to this because I haven't done enough in this page to know where it would be or whatever. But this is a replay. I'm trying to work out if you need to add in. Okay, there's the multi-view. It's got the things. 8, 2, 1. Program. Interesting. Okay, so I guess we could. I've turned off the audio for this, by the way, just because I don't want to deal with it looping back. So let's just say we want to start editing while this show. So I'm still recording to these files, and you could have an editor. Oh, it is a nice little red button here. That's kind of fun, showing what's going on there. So 12 seconds. We could go. Let me see, camera 2. So this is the clean feed. Okay, so we're playing, and we could go in. Yeah, it's a bit, I mean, it's playing across a 1 gigabit network. So where we got 12 seconds, a little stuttery there. And then you'll see the opening shot there. So I could blah, 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 do an out point and insert. Is that doing it? Insert. Maybe it's, I don't know what it's, maybe it's thinking. Okay, it did do it. What is that? There we go. Okay. 3. It's going a bit slow. Hopefully it's not slow for you guys. With all the audio. Yeah. Okay, I can't seem to click on my edit page now. I don't know if that's just like I've got like a ton of other stuff going. My computer's running live stream type stuff. Hopefully that is better for you guys there. But theoretically, if I can get back to cut page, can't get to cut page. Can I get to? Oh, don't tell me that's gonna. Maybe it's crashed it. No, it's still operational, and it is playing footage. All right, so it's playing. That's playing footage across the network. There we go. Maybe it's just slow. I don't know. Man, I'm just not seeing the clips in here. Maybe I don't know. I know what I'm doing here. But apparently the clip is in there. Maybe it's just not graphically updating. Anyway, the clip's in there, as you can see. And so now I could go back to source and, select something else. I guess the question is also, as you play, can you just, oh, there's a behind shot. I haven't shown any of that, guys, yet, but I'll get into that next week with some other camera angles. Yeah, hopefully you'd be able to sort of cut and lay things down. But you can kind of do that in the edit page anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. I wonder if that would work in the edit page. We go to media pool, and what are we going to do? Like create new multicam, create multicam. Now can I play and can I cut? Play. I don't know. 3? It seems to be. It seems a bit slow. Is that playing? I can't tell. I would say I don't think you can do it on a 1 gigabit network. So potentially 8 cameras is too much. Maybe if you're doing replay, you're only bringing in 2, 3, 4 angles. I don't know, because these don't have a 10 gigabit output on the ATEMs. So I don't know if you could do 8 across what I've got set up here, which is the SSD connected to ATEM Extreme SDI, and then a 1 gigabit Ethernet connection from the ATEM to the computer. That's all Ethernet. But, well, I don't know. All right, let's get out of there. See what else is going on there. Jesse, good to have you here. And who else have we got? I think that's about it. Let me see here. If you got any last minute questions, let me know. Otherwise, we can start wrapping up. Eric says, I'm sure a few angles and cameras is easier on the CPU, probably. I wonder if I can just like make a new, maybe I'll just do like three cameras. I'm going to go multicam, blah, blah, blah. And this one, wonder if that'll play back. Yeah, it's a bit nicer. A little bit nicer, I think. Angle 1, 2. And then, yeah, you can see I'm sort of cutting that like, yeah, so it seems to work for the edit page. I don't think it did that 4 years ago, but it's been a while since I've looked at that. So Excellent. Well, hopefully that gave you a bit of an idea of how to use the speed editor to do some like other parts of like using the edit page, because I just feel like the problem with the cut page for me is that, well, I think it's got its place. The cut page is the sort of at the beginning of the project trying to like bash out some clips quickly for selects or for just like arranging things. But invariably at some point you've got to jump over into like the finer details, and that's where the edit page for me is really important. And sometimes trying to work out when to jump across between those is like the lines get a bit blurred there. So I sort of prefer just working in the edit page and then everything's kind of where I expect it to be. And I have been incorporating the speed editor into my edit page as part of that. So, all right, I think that's all for this week. So until next week, have a great week. We've got 4th of July coming up soon here. You can find more about Companion and automating your live streams at davidjoshuaford.com. So go check that out. But until next week, take care and thanks for joining me on the stream. Bye.